time once again to look at what Cartoon Network may bring to us in the next year. The Checkerboard channel hasn't been doing so well over the past 12 months. They've been pushing what many consider to be their worst shows, and not giving some of their best series the airtime and attention that they deserve. As for the shows they put out, Mighty Magiswords was decent with horrible pacing, Justice League Action is just fine from what I've seen of it, though I'm not a huge fan of action shows and other people I've talked to really love it. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was occasionally funny, but not too clever, and also not very faithful to the source material. I haven't actually seen the Ben 10 reboot yet, though that may be for the better, and OKKO Let's Be Heroes is actually a really great show. The network has been a slightly negative mixed bag recently, but they have a whole slew of potential shows and new shows coming soon. For the first time ever, all of the shows and pilots I'm talking about today were released or announced within the past year. There was so much to talk about that I even had to cut 2 entries from the list to reach 10, but more on those later. If there's a semi-recent show or pilot that isn't on here, chances are that I've already covered it in one of these videos or even reviewed it already. Once again, this isn't really a true top 10 list, but I'm using the format to keep my thoughts more organized. This year I'm also going to ask myself a question with every entry. If and when this releases as a full show, will I review it? The reason for this is that I simply haven't been able to take a look at every show that I cover on these lists, either due to lack of interest or simply because I didn't have enough time on my schedule to catch it. I'm a busy guy. I have very important things to do with my life, like check my Twitter account to see if my tweets have gotten any likes. Why don't people think I'm funny? With all that said, let's take a look into Cartoon Network's future with my top 10 shows and pilots for 2017.
Super Fighting Robot! Mega Man!
I'm not much of a Mega Man fan. I've only dipped my toe into a few of the games, mostly because I'm generally bad at video games, and everything I know about the series I learned through the internet or through gaming magazines. But I really like the series' art and character designs, especially in the later Japanese games and in the Archie comics series, and I really liked his appearance in Smash Bros. too. Maybe a little less than others did though. I haven't seen the old Ruby Spears cartoon or any of the anime, so I'm not completely sure if the Blue Bomber has produced a lot of quality animation. Except for the Mega Man 8 animated cutscenes. Those are pure gold.
But where is Dr. Wily?
That's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
But next year, a new Mega Man cartoon will hit TV, and it's being produced by Man of Action Studios, who is basically responsible for every single American action cartoon produced in this decade that isn't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or on Netflix. According to the plot synopsis released online, in this series, Mega Man is actually the alter ego of Akai Light, or is it Aki Light? I don't know how to pronounce that name. He's a robot boy created by Dr. Light, and he has to balance being a normal human and protecting his city of Silicon Valley. Great name, by the way. Basically, it's Mega Man meets Spider-Man, but as unoriginal as it is, a Mega Man comic by the company Dreamwave did have a similar premise. It was also canceled after 4 issues. I kind of get the feeling that this cartoon is going to be a train wreck. The first thing that we saw from it was this bad piece of artwork, with this awkward pose and clunky design that almost makes box art Mega Man look good. I've seriously seen fan art of it that was better. Not only has the show already been pushed back a year, but all of the clips we've gotten from it have been leaked. The first leak clip gave us a taste of the animation style, which seems to be similar to Ben 10 with influences of anime. Heck, Mega Man even powers up in a pose that is directly ripped from Ben 10. It looks a bit generic, but I did like the amount of color and flash on the Robot Masters. Visually, I hope the show won't blend in with the other superhero shows out there, or at least will have some fluid animation. The other leaked clip, which I couldn't find in good quality, was the intro, and it was not good. Unlike the rest of the show, it was animated in CGI, and it features Mega Man transforming thanks to this weird new character called Mega Mini, who is probably going to end up being a super annoying and useless character. Alongside the powering up sequence, a chorus of poorly digitized voices scream phrases like Megamize Me, which just sounds like Megan-mize me. Not only has this show made a bad first impression, but I don't really understand what it's trying to be. It's using some elements from the main series, but at the same time, it's adding and changing a lot of things that didn't need to be added or changed. They also ruined a fantastic pun by changing the name of Mega Man's alter ego, completely screwing up the music-based naming convention that some of the characters go by. As negative as my feelings on this show are, I want it to succeed, so Capcom doesn't forget about Mega Man for another 7 years. This show definitely seems like it will be an interesting one to talk about. I just hope that it isn't a garbage fire hotter than Fireman and Magma Man combined. DC DC Superhero Girls is an upcoming series about young DC Comics heroes and villains that attend high school together. It's kind of like Gotham High, that Batman cartoon that never came to be. But this series has actually been a franchise for a while, and has had a toy line, a couple of DVD movies, and a series of online shorts. I had no idea that this was such a big thing until I started doing research for this video. I watched the first season of the shorts to get an understanding of the series, and I know I'm not in the target audience, but these shorts were very bland, both visually and character-wise, frequently recycled concepts and animation, and never even got me to laugh once.
More like Blunder Woman.
I can tell that a lot of the voice actors were trying, but other than that, this is just a cash grab for girls who love the Wonder Woman movie to death. However, I'm a bit interested in this new show, mostly because of the only thing we know about it. It's that Lauren Faust, who is best known for developing the newest My Little Pony series, is working on this show. She's proven herself to be quite good at making mediocre series into something fresh and interesting, even if Friendship is Magic isn't really my cup of tea. Plus, she's technically already made a show about DC's superhero girls, in the form of Super Best Friends Forever, a series of shorts that air between shows on Cartoon Network's short-lived DC Nation block. These shorts were filled with charm, and reminded me a lot of the Powerpuff Girls. It's almost like she worked on the original show or something. This show could be something to look forward to, but like MLP, I doubt it will be something for me. I may check it out if it does something really interesting with the concept, or if I hear a lot of great things about it. Who knows, this could be the next My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Actually, I don't think the world is ready for another Friendship is Magic. I don't think we can ever be ready. The Lego Movie and the Lego Batman movie are both really great animated films. Yes, they're supersized commercials at their core, but they also have a lot of heart and effort put into them, and I would highly recommend them to anyone who's just played around with Legos or just likes fun and interesting movies. But those two films made a lot of money, and Warner Brothers has decided to capitalize on them with a new animated series featuring everyone's favorite pink cat who hides her true emotions underneath a happy facade, Unikitty. This new series will focus on Unikitty's life as the ruler and princess of her kingdom, along with her recolored brother, her best friend, who dabs in this piece of artwork done by a member of the crew, so you know that they're a dank memer at heart, her bodyguard Hawkadile, which for all the people oblivious to puns is a combination between a hawk and a crocodile, and another character who is just a Lego brick. A character who without a doubt belongs in the Character Design Hall of Fame. When I first saw it, I bashed the art direction on Twitter for being pretty out there and not looking like Legos at all, but now I kinda like it. Compared to all the other CGI Lego shows we've gotten, it's a nice change of pace. My expectations for the show itself aren't very high though. The creative team mostly consists of Teen Titans Go crew members, along with creators of internet animated series, including one that is literally about a dog eating a man's farts. It was a very creative and unexpected series about a dog eating a man's farts, but still a series about a dog eating a man's farts. I'm expecting Unikitty to be okay. Nothing too good or bad, but something filled with lots of random humor that can get a laugh at me every once in a while. Kinda like the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball series. One thing that I think could really help the show stand out is by taking advantage of the fact that the universe of this show is made out of Lego bricks. There's a lot of fun animation and concepts you can get out of shifting Lego bricks around, and I really hope that the show actually remembers this fact. Also, I bet that Unikitty is going to get super angry in every episode. It only happened twice in the movie, but it seems like something that the series could end up exploiting for humor. To conclude, I may check Unikitty out if it's interesting. Or maybe it'll just be
too dank-fied me.
Oh boy, another confirmed series that we don't know much about. This is Summer Camp Island, a series about best friends Oscar and Hedgehog who attend a sleepaway camp where strange and bizarre things happen. You would think that this would be a big mystery series about the duo investigating what exactly is going on at the camp, but no, they just kind of accept all the strange things that's happening and focus more on how they miss their parents at summer camp. I really like how low-key it is about its strange world, and more interested in the dynamics and relationships of the characters. The art style of the series is interesting as well. The backgrounds look like they came straight out of a children's book, and the characters have huge eyes and big noses. The backgrounds are pretty, but the characters look very odd to me. It's a very unique style for character designs, but it doesn't animate too well and looks a bit awkward. I hope that it will be slightly retold for the series, since the clips I've been showing you are from the pilot produced years ago. I know that the creator, Julia Pott, has a very experimental style, but like Steven Universe's creator, Rebecca Sugar, I feel like it needs to be solidified a bit more before it becomes a full cartoon. It's hard to predict how good Summer Camp Island will be, since currently we don't know exactly how different the series will be from the pilot. So far, it seems like something that I may just skip over. But when it eventually does come out, I hope that it can make a bit more of an impression on me, and won't just be that cartoon with an anthropomorphic hedgehog that isn't Sonic. Now here's something I doubt very few of you will recognize. Cartoon Network's first Danish co-production, The Heroic Quest of the Valiant Prince Ivendo. This series of 10 3-minute shorts will follow a young and seemingly incompetent prince and his bird friend Bert on a journey to retrieve a golden feather from the Eagle King. Again, we don't have many more details on this series, other than a few small clips from a Cartoon Network Russia reel for 2017. From these clips, we can see that the animation style is similar to Gumball, as a lot of the characters, even the leads in this case, are drawn in different styles. These similarities sorta make sense, since both of this show's creators worked on Gumball before creating this. The backgrounds are also realistic, but here they're more detailed, and look more like stop-motion backgrounds or dioramas than edited photos. We've seen very little of this show, but I already kind of like it. It seems like it's going to be Gumball, but set in a high fantasy world. There's a lot of common conventions and fantasy stories that are ripe for parody, and it seems like there'll be a lot of intriguing characters as well, including these weird gnome dudes. I'm not going to ask what they're doing here. That's their business and their business alone. I don't want to be a nosy Nancy. I could be wrong, and this could just be an alright series or one that suffers from not having enough time for each episode. I guess I am kind of grasping at straws or seeing something in the show that may not even be there. But one thing's for sure, I will give the Heroic Quest of the Valiant Prince Ivendo a shot when it comes out. My interest has peaked, and I'm excited to see how the adventures of this valiant prince will pan out. Oh wait. The show has only been confirmed to air in the Middle East and Africa, and probably won't be coming to the United States for a little while. Well, there's really only one thing that I can do now.
Now we play the waiting game. No, the waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Villainous is currently one of Cartoon Network's most popular series, and it isn't really a series yet. Right now, it's a set of Mexican shorts in Spanish, and the internet has taken quite a liking to it. The shorts star a group of incompetent villains led by Black Hat, a man who has dark shape-shifting powers but relies on his assistant Dr. Flug's malfunctioning inventions to create evil. Also in the group are the obsessive and hyperactive teen girl Dementia and failed genetic experiment 505, who just exist to be kicked around by the other characters. Normally I would knock the show for having such a poor reason to create another character, but all of the characters only exist to fill a simple role. While they have fairly entertaining interactions with each other, they all resemble cartoon characters you've seen before, either through personality or design. A lot of the shorts also don't have the room that they need to breathe. I feel that some of them could be much funnier if they just had a minute or two added to their runtime. I enjoy what I've seen from Villainous so far, but so many signs point to this being a show that could be much better if it were actually a full series. There's a lot of potential with the show. You could also dive into the lives and backstories of the characters, explaining why Dr. Flug keeps a bag over his head, or how the characters would react if they searched themselves up on DeviantArt. To conclude, I would definitely watch and review Villainous if there was more of it. I'm not as in love with the show as Tumblr is, but Cartoon Network definitely needs to give it more love and attention.
New cartoons all summer long on Cartoon Fridays, only on Cartoon Network.
For our first pilot on the list, here's Victor and Valentino, an adventure show that focuses on the Mexican-inspired supernatural escapades of two stepbrothers. On the surface, it seems like Drake and Josh by way of El Tigre. The relationship between the two brothers is the center of the show, and they have pretty good chemistry. Valentino does get pushed around a lot by Victor's rash actions, and Victor almost never shuts up with his bad jokes, although he does eventually apologize to Valentino and realizes the error of his ways. But the real star of the show is the world that the boys find themselves trapped in. The Realm of the Dead features a lot of great visuals, both in the background and in the action scene at the end. This isn't the first cartoon ever to use Mexican iconography and concepts, but in this way it stands out from some of Cartoon Network's other current shows, since most of them are inspired by anime or classic American animation. Though I do think that this pilot does go a little bit overboard with the Mexican influences sometimes.
What the taco?
tacos are literally the driving force behind the whole plot. They're basically treated like the work of God in this universe. It seems like if Victor and Valentino becomes a series, it's planning on bringing elements of the realm of the dead into ours. And I can tell that this pilot has a plan for the future of the series, and I think that shows that there's a really strong vision behind Victor and Valentino. When I first saw this, I thought it was overshadowed by another pilot Cartoon Network released alongside it, but after seeing it on its own months later, I really enjoyed Victor and Valentino. Welcome to My Life is a very unique pilot, and here that's both a positive and a negative. This pilot uses a documentary style to show us a day in the life of T-Cash, a monster going to a school populated by humans. T-Cash has been accepted by his peers, and I think that's a nice variation of the fish out of water story that we would normally get from this setup. The whole pilot feels very realistic. The dialogue and characters feel natural and aren't pandering to any audience, and it really does feel like we're experiencing a day in the life of a teenager. I also find the art style to be very visually appealing. Like Gumball, backgrounds are edited photos, but here all of the characters are 3D models. It kind of reminds me of the old Cartoon Network city bumpers in a way. Almost none of Cartoon Network's original shows have been CGI animated, and it's just another way it stands out from everything else on the network. But the realistic nature of the pilot also creates a huge problem. I still found it interesting, but it wasn't anything that I would call particularly exciting. I doubt that the average kid would enjoy this as much as a teenager or a young adult would. I'm all for cartoons aimed at older audiences, but Cartoon Network's target audience is kids, and why would you greenlight something that the people watching may not entirely enjoy? I like Welcome to My Life a lot, but if it's going to be expanded upon, I would suggest that Cartoon Network bring back its miniseries format and give the show 4 or 5 episodes, just to test the waters. I don't really have an itch to see more stories with T-Cash and friends, and I would be perfectly content if we only got to see a few more. I would definitely review the show if that were the case. However, I am very happy to see that Cartoon Network is open to experimentation with their pilots, and might make shows that are more relaxed and slower than what we're used to. Who knows if Welcome to My Life will ever go anywhere, but either way, I'm happy with what we got. In my number 2 slot, here's Craig of the Creek, which is probably the show we have the least amount of information on. It may seem like I'm desperate for this show to be good based on how high it's being ranked on this list, but I have a gut feeling that this show is going to be something special. Craig of the Creek is a quote-unquote adventure series set in a kid utopia that Craig and his 2 best friends explore. The concept behind this show is the origin of my interest. It sounds like it may be something along the lines of the result of what the Ed, Edd, and Eddy characters would do if they had the kids next door's technology, though I could be completely wrong with that prediction. This concept could be taken in many different directions, and I'm very curious to see where the creators take it. Speaking of the creators, this show is being created by Matt Burnett and Ben Levin, who worked on Steven Universe and Level Up. You all remember Level Up, don't you? It wasn't really worth remembering anyway. Anyway, these 2 helped write just about every episode in the second half of Steven Universe's first season, which still was one of my favorite sets of episodes in the series. The only gripe I currently have with the show is that art-wise, it doesn't pass what I now dub the Cartoon Network generic art style test. If you can mix and match the characters of one show on the channel with another's easily, then the art style is generic. Just because it doesn't pass this test doesn't mean that the characters and animation of Craig of the Creek can't be good. Already, this is one of the most diverse main casts we've had for a cartoon. That's not really something I look for in any show, but it's still kind of neat. I really hope that Craig of the Creek lives up to its exciting premise. Otherwise, I'm going to look like a fool for thinking that this show could ever be good. We definitely don't want that to happen again. Before I get to my number 1 pick, I'll cover what barely made it onto the list. The first in this category was Apple and Onion, which is still important since it was picked up for a full series back in May. I'm completely fine with this being picked up. There were certainly better shows that could have been chosen, but also worse ones as well. My opinion on the original pilot hasn't changed, especially since Cartoon Network is set on making this video as hard as possible to make, and hasn't released any new information on this show. The only somewhat new thing that we know about it is that it will feature Apple and Onion being new to the ways of the big city, which could mean that the series could show how the titular duo moved in and adapted to city life, but that's merely speculation. My only hopes for Apple and Onion as a full show is that the art style gets a little upgrade, the stories get less generic, and that the show comes out before next summer, so I don't have to preview it again. The other honorable mention, so to speak, was Lasso and Comet, a pilot that everyone, including Cartoon Network, doesn't seem to care about. It was released on Cartoon Network Asia's YouTube channel, and not the US channel, only a week after 2 big pilots had been released. It also had this horrible thumbnail with this generic text and a screenshot from the pilot where the station logo is visible. The quality of the pilot itself kind of deserves to be represented by that bad thumbnail, since the setting is confusing, the characters are borderline derivative, and the animation is a bit choppy. Also, Richard Stephen Horowitz voices a character in it, but he uses the same voice as Invader Zim, which is just distracting and reminds me that I could be watching a better show instead. The only thing I really liked about the pilot was the groovy music. That stuff was top notch. This felt more like an amalgamation of different shows rather than its own thing. It's the complete opposite of the #1 entry on this list, where it doesn't seem to have any idea of what its future would be. I decided against putting this on the list because I didn't think it had much of a shot at becoming a full series. Plus, I've seen hardly anyone discuss the show, which is surprising. I may talk about this pilot again next year if I have nothing else to fill in the other 10 slots, but if I don't, then only watch Lasso and comment if you're really interested in it. I think the quality of the pilot as a whole can be summed up by just one fact. That thing there, that's supposed to be a comet. Yeah, despite the title, I thought it was supposed to be a grape too. Were you really expecting anything else to be at the top spot? Infinity Train has received massive amounts of acclaim since it was released alongside Victor and Valentino in November. It's already got a large following, an Emmy nomination, and quite a few of my fans seem to enjoy it. Honestly, I think it may have gotten a bit too much love, since most of Cartoon Network's social media comment sections are filled with people demanding that they cancel Teen Titans Go and greenlight Infinity Train. Honestly, I don't think Infinity Train alone is what will save Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network doesn't really need to be saved, it just needs to fix how it's organized. But I understand why people want this to become a show so badly, because it does look very promising. A girl named Tulip is stuck on a train with a literal two-faced robot named 1-1 and a mysterious marking on her hand. We have no idea how or why she's there, but she's desperate to get back home. But the only thing that she can do is navigate through the nearly infinite number of cars on the train, as she tries to find any way to end her journey. The premise alone has led to a ton of speculations and theories about Tulip's purpose, what 1-1 is and where he came from, and who this mysterious gear-powered masked robot credited as the Steward is. I personally think that this is secretly a big crossover with Adventure Time, and that the Infinity Train is actually the Dungeon Train from that Season 5 episode. That plot twist probably wouldn't be the weirdest thing that Adventure Time has done. Remember, this is a show that had a storyline where one of its main characters accidentally impregnated a rainbow unicorn.
I am pregnant!
I'm puppies?
But unlike Adventure Time, Infinity Train does more than not give answers to everything. The pilot gives us an idea of how a regular episode of the show would play out. Tulip enters a train car that is a portal to a cute civilization run by corgis. But this world is being terrorized by a beast, and Tulip has to help the King Atticus save his kingdom. There's a lot of great humor to come from the simple joke of giving dogs deep voices and making them act civilized, but the pilot as a whole leans a bit too hard on fart humor. It was fairly well done by the low standards that fart humor has, but it should not have played as big of a part in the story as it did. The animation is really good too. Sure, it doesn't exactly pass the generic Cartoon Network art style test, but the final action scene at the end of the episode is really smooth and intense, and the designs of some of the train cars and the Steward are very cool as well. I really enjoyed all of the main characters, and they have good voice actors backing them up, especially 1-1. It's a little ball that is half optimist and half pessimist, and they lead to a couple of the episode's highlights.
Shadow puppets! I can do an eagle!
The only character that I have mixed feelings on is Tulip herself. She's pretty selfish and cares more about learning about the number on her hand rather than helping those who are in danger. Sure, the episode does call Tulip out for this behavior, but she still helps the corgis out of frustration. I still really enjoyed this pilot though. It does a good job at not only introducing the premise and cast, but also hooking the viewers into its creative and mysterious world. It clearly shows that the creator has a plan for the show, and I feel like Infinity Train and other shows like Gravity Falls have kinda made this an essential component for a super successful cartoon nowadays. Anyway, I'm entirely sure that I would review Infinity Train if it were a full series. Even though the pilot was dropped online 8 months ago, I still think that it will get greenlit by the end of the year. It took Apple and Onion an entire year before it was given a full series pickup, and it took OKKO at least 4 years. Plus, we haven't heard that creator Owen Dennis is working on anything else, so it could be currently in production. We'll get a full Infinity Train series someday, and I'll be ready for it, even if it takes an infinity. Also, Rick and Morty totally predicted this pilot.
Wow, a whole world populated by intelligent dogs. I wonder what it'll be like, Rick.
I think it'll be great, Morty. You know, it could be developed into a very satisfying project for people of all ages. I mean, I'd watch it, Morty, for at least 11 minutes a pop. You know, maybe they'll do it board-driven.
Looking back at all the shows Cartoon Network has made pilots for or has in production, most of them look pretty good. There aren't any abysmal pilots like there were last year, and the only show that's a reboot isn't even being made by Cartoon Network. That, combined with the large amount of new shows and pilots announced in the past year, shows that the network is really trying to improve itself. Sure, it probably won't bring back the show you want it to or magically fix all of its problems, but I think that this list shows that the channel is getting back on track. It's still far from perfect, but I think the future of Cartoon Network is getting a little bit brighter. And that about wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed this despite the fact that I didn't have a lot to work with when writing and editing this. Hopefully things will be a little different next year. The next video should be out sometime next week, and you can check my Twitter and Discord for updates on that, as well as if you want to see what I do when I'm procrastinating on other things. But until then, I'm Nintendo, and thank you for watching.